In 1922, archaeologists excavating the tomb of the Egyptian pharaoh Tutankhamun discovered something unexpected among the gold artifacts, sacred oils, and ritual objects buried alongside him. Tucked into a small alabaster vessel, preserved for more than 3,000 years in the dry Egyptian air, was a cache of tiny black seeds. Those seeds were Nigella sativa, what we know today as black cumin seed, or simply black seed. Their presence in a royal tomb was not accidental. Ancient Egyptians considered this seed so profoundly valuable that they buried it with their king. What is remarkable is that modern science, with all of its molecular precision and clinical rigor, has not debunked this ancient reputation. It has confirmed it. Researchers have now identified the primary bioactive compound in black seed, a molecule called thymoquinone, and traced its anti-inflammatory action through a series of molecular pathways that are directly relevant to the type of joint inflammation that causes so much suffering in midlife and beyond. Clinical trials have tested it against placebo and against standard anti-inflammatory medications. Systematic reviews have examined the accumulated evidence. The primary bioactive compound in black seed, a molecule called thymoquinone, and traced its anti-inflammatory action through a series of molecular pathways. We will talk about how to use it, what forms are most effective, and which complementary habits compound its benefits. And we will hear stories of people who found their mobility, their vitality, and their confidence returning after years of accepting joint discomfort as permanent. If you have been managing joint pain, stiffness, or the gradual erosion of the physical freedom that made you feel like yourself, this conversation is for you. To understand what goes wrong in joint inflammation, you first need to understand what a healthy joint looks like when everything is working correctly. Because the human joint is not a simple mechanical hinge. It is a precisely engineered biological system, and its complexity. This membrane produces synovial fluid, a viscous, nutrient-rich liquid that lubricates the joint, nourishes the avascular cartilage, and provides the medium through which immune cells and inflammatory signals travel. Under healthy conditions, this system is self-regulating. Minor damage to cartilage or the synovial membrane triggers a controlled, time-limited inflammatory response. Immune cells enter the joint, clear the damaged tissue, release growth factors that stimulate repair and then withdraw. The inflammation resolves, the joint heals, function is restored. The tragedy of chronic joint disease is the failure of this elegant cycle. And against standard anti-inflammatory medications. Systematic reviews have examined the accumulated evidence, and what that science consistently shows is that this ancient seed, that description is partially accurate but significantly incomplete. Modern research has fundamentally repositioned osteoarthritis as an inflammatory disease from its earliest stages. Even before cartilage loss is detectable on imaging, the synovial membrane in osteoarthritic joints shows signs of chronic low-grade inflammation, elevated inflammatory cytokines, and aberrant immune cell activity. The inflammation is not merely a consequence of cartilage loss, it is a driver of it. The second is rheumatoid arthritis, an autoimmune condition in which the immune system mistakenly identifies the synovial membrane as a foreign threat and mounts a sustained inflammatory attack against it. An autoimmune condition in which the immune system mistakenly identifies the synovial membrane as a foreign threat and mounts a sustained inflammatory attack against it. In rheumatoid arthritis, this category, sometimes described as inflammatory joint syndrome or subclinical synovitis, is where many people find themselves for years or even decades before a formal diagnosis, and it is the category most responsive to early nutritional and lifestyle intervention. The most common medical approach to joint inflammation involves non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, or NSAIDs, medications like ibuprofen, naproxen, and diclofenac. These drugs work by inhibiting the enzyme cyclooxygenase, which produces prostaglandins, a family of inflammatory signaling molecules that contribute to pain and swelling. They work. In the short term, they reduce pain and improve function. Medications like ibuprofen, naproxen, and diclofenac These drugs work by inhibiting the enzyme cyclooxygenase, which produces prostaglandins, a family of inflammatory signaling molecules that contribute to pain and swelling. And it is precisely into that gap that black seed and its primary active compound step with a body of evidence that demands serious attention. Nigella sativa is a flowering plant native to Southwest Asia and the Mediterranean. Its small, angular, intensely aromatic seeds have been pressed for oil and ground as a culinary spice for millennia. But what distinguishes black seed from other anti-inflammatory foods is not the breadth of its bioactive compounds. It is the precision of its primary molecule. Thymoquinone is the most abundant and most studied bioactive constituent of black seed oil, making up between 30 and 48% of its volatile oil fraction. Of black seed oil, making up between 30 and 48% of its volatile oil fraction. Its molecular structure is that of a benzoquinone, a compact, stable ring structure that allows it to interact with targets simultaneously. But thymoquinone is the compound that stands apart. It is the reason that black seed, unlike many other plants, has generated a body of research substantial enough to warrant genuine scientific attention. Let's examine exactly what it does inside an inflamed joint. Mechanism 1. Thymoquinone directly inhibits NF-κB, cutting inflammation off at its master switch. Inside every joint cell, whether synoviocytes, chondrocytes, or macrophages, there is a transcription factor called nuclear factor kappa B, abbreviated NF-κB. This molecule functions as the master regulator of the inflammatory response. When it is activated, it switches on the production of a cascade of pro-inflammatory molecules. Abbreviated NF-κB, this molecule functions as the master regulator of the inflammatory response. When it is activated, it switches on the production of a cascade of pro-inflammatory molecules. Interleukin-1 beta, interleukin-6, tumor necrosis factor alpha. It directly suppresses the phosphorylation of ICBA, the inhibitory protein that controls NF-κB. When ICBA is phosphorylated, NF-κB is released and enters the cell nucleus to activate inflammatory genes. When thymoquinone prevents that phosphorylation, NF-κB remains bound and inactive. A 2012 study published in the International Immunopharmacology Journal demonstrated that thymoquinone completely suppressed NF-κB activation in synovial cells from rheumatoid arthritis patients, cells that were otherwise constitutively inflammatory, and did so at concentrations achievable through normal black seed oil supplementation. A 2019 systematic review concluded that the inhibitory effect was consistent. MMPs are proteolytic enzymes. They break down proteins. In healthy tissue, they serve an important function. They degrade damaged extracellular matrix components to make way for new tissue. But in chronically inflamed joints, MMP production is dramatically upregulated by cytokines. These are the primary enzymes responsible for degrading collagen type 2O, the structural protein that gives articular cartilage its tensile strength and resilience. When MMP activity is chronically elevated, cartilage is degraded faster than it can be synthesized. The avascular nature of cartilage, it has no direct blood supply and receives nutrients only through diffusion from synovial fluid, makes this particularly critical. Cartilage cannot repair itself quickly under any circumstances. Under conditions of elevated MMP activity, it cannot repair itself at all. Research has shown that thymoquinone directly inhibits the expression of MMP1, MMP3, and MMP13 in chondrocytes. That drives autoimmune joint destruction. For the significant proportion of people whose joint inflammation has an autoimmune component, including those with rheumatoid arthritis, but also those with psoriatic arthritis, lupus-associated joint disease, or undifferentiated inflammatory arthritis, T helper 17 cells produce highly pro-inflammatory interleukin-17, while regulatory T cells, TREGs, normally function as brakes on the immune system. In rheumatoid arthritis, Th17 cells are overrepresented and TREGs are underrepresented. The immune accelerator is stuck down and the brake is failing. The result is a self-sustaining autoimmune attack on joint tissue that current pharmacological treatments can only partially contain. Multiple studies have now shown that thymoquinone modulates this T-cell balance. A 2014 study demonstrated that thymoquinone reduced Th17 cell differentiation and promoted Treg cell expansion in animal models of rheumatoid arthritis. In rheumatoid arthritis, Th17 cells are overrepresented and Tregs are underrepresented. The accelerator is stuck and the brake is failing. Thymoquinone reduced Th17 differentiation and promoted Treg expansion in animal models. Mechanism 4. Thymoquinone activates the NRF2 pathway, rebuilding the joint's own antioxidant defense. In a chronically inflamed joint, the ongoing inflammatory reaction generates a large and continuous load of reactive oxygen species, molecules of oxidative damage that attack cell membranes, damage DNA, fragment proteins, and accelerate the degeneration of cartilage and synovial tissue. The joint has its own antioxidant defense system to manage this burden, centered on a transcription factor called NRF2. The nuclear factor erythroid-2-related factor 2. When NRF2 is activated, it switches on the body's endogenous antioxidant enzymes, superoxide dismutase, catalase, and glutathione peroxidase. Molecules of oxidative damage that attack cell membranes, damage DNA, fragment proteins, and accelerate the degeneration of cartilage and synovial tissue. The joint has its own antioxidant defense system to manage this burden, centered on a transcription factor called NRF2, the nuclear factor erythroid-2-related factor 2. Thymoquinone is one of the most potent small molecule activators of NRF2 identified to date in naturally occurring compounds. The practical meaning of this is significant. Black seed doesn't just reduce the inflammation attacking your joints. It simultaneously rebuilds the internal antioxidant capacity that your joints need to protect themselves. It is anti-inflammatory and cytoprotective at the same time, working from the outside in and the inside out. Mechanism 5. Black seed oil preserves synovial fluid quality, restoring the lubrication that allows painless movement. Every person who has experienced a joint that feels dry or grinding knows the sensation. Black seed oil preserves synovial fluid quality, restoring the lubrication that allows painless movement. Every person who has experienced a joint that feels dry, grinding, or stuck knows the sensation of compromised synovial fluid. Synovial fluid is not simply a lubricant. It is a biochemically complex, living medium that delivers nutrients. Second, the synovial membrane cells responsible for producing new hyaluronic acid become dysfunctional under inflammatory conditions, producing less and of lower molecular weight. Black seed oil has demonstrated protective effects on synovial fluid composition through multiple pathways. A 2018 study found that oral black seed oil supplementation in animals with experimentally induced knee osteoarthritis significantly preserved synovial fluid hyaluronic acid concentration, reduced hyaluronidase activity in joint tissue, and maintained synovial membrane integrity compared to untreated controls. Histological examination showed that the synovial membranes of treated animals showed significantly less inflammatory cell infiltration and fibrotic change, is the most bioavailable form for therapeutic purposes. The cold pressing process preserves the thymoquinone content and the fixed oil fraction. It can be consumed directly, 1 teaspoon, approximately 5 milliliters, once or twice daily, or mixed into foods. The taste is pungent, slightly bitter, and intensely aromatic. Black seed capsules containing standardized oil are a practical alternative. Look for products that specify a minimum thymoquinone content of 0.5 to 1.5% by weight. Most clinical studies have used doses equivalent to 1 to 3 grams of black seed oil daily, roughly 2 to 6 capsules of a standard 500 milligram formulation. Ground whole black seeds can be incorporated directly into food, but contain lower concentrations of thymoquinone than the extracted oil, making them more suitable as a nutritional complement. The research on joint outcomes consistently shows results emerging between 4 and 12 weeks of consistent daily use. Consistency is key. This is not a compound that produces acute relief the way an NSAID does. It works through cumulative epigenetic and inflammatory modulation. People who discontinue after 2 weeks are stopping precisely when the biochemical groundwork is being laid. Important interactions and considerations. Black seed is generally well tolerated, but people on antihypertensive medications should monitor their blood pressure as thymoquinone has mild blood pressure lowering effects. Similarly, it has modest anticoagulant properties. People on warfarin should consult their prescribing physician. Pregnant women should not use therapeutic doses as nigellone can have uterine stimulant effects. Awareness is essential. That amplifies black seed's effects. Black seed is a powerful tool, but it operates within a broader physiological context, and that context matters enormously. Consuming black seed oil daily while maintaining a diet high in processed foods, refined carbohydrates, and omega-6 rich seed oils is like applying a powerful patch to a leaking pipe without turning off the water supply. Eliminating refined sugar is non-negotiable for meaningful joint improvement. Fructose and glucose consumed in excess promote the formation of advanced glycation end products, AGEs, that accumulate in cartilage tissue, making it stiffer and more brittle. AGEs also directly activate NF-κB. Every gram of refined sugar consumed is counteracting the NF-κB inhibition that thymoquinone is working to achieve. Collagen-rich foods support the cartilage matrix that black seed is protecting. Bone broth, collagen peptide supplements, and foods rich in glycine provide the structural building blocks that the chondrocytes black seed protects actually need to synthesize new cartilage. This intuition is understandable. Movement causes pain, therefore movement seems harmful. But the research on joint biology tells a fundamentally different story. Synovial fluid, which carries nutrients to cartilage and removes inflammatory waste products from the joint, has no mechanical pump. It circulates through joint movement. Low-impact, controlled movement, water-based exercise, cycling, yoga, and walking reduces joint pain scores and improves function in ways no supplement can fully replicate. Black seed oil and therapeutic movement are a partnership. Now, consider Gerald, 63 years old, whose rheumatoid arthritis had progressed significantly. He was not opposed to medication, but asked for 3 months to attempt an intensive nutritional and lifestyle protocol. He eliminated sugar, began 2 teaspoons of cold-pressed black seed oil daily, added omega-3s and turmeric, and began water aerobics. At 8 weeks, his C-reactive protein had dropped by 42%. At 12 weeks, his disease activity score fell from the high range into the low range. His morning stiffness resolved within 90 minutes. His rheumatologist agreed to defer the escalation of medication. Gerald's story is about addressing biological conditions with the same seriousness as symptoms. Then there is Dr. Majid Ali Khan, a pharmacologist initially skeptical of traditional botanical medicine. His perspective shifted when he saw thymoquinone's interaction with NF-κB. What struck him was the selectivity. Thymoquinone modulated pathological, sustained activation while preserving the acute activation needed for normal immune function. Selectivity is what the industry has tried to engineer for decades. Dr. Khan went on to publish multiple studies contributing to the evidence that has positioned black seed as a credible intervention. Susan's story is also powerful. Susan was 51 and managing psoriatic arthritis for 6 years when she began to make peace with a smaller life. She had stopped hiking and playing guitar. She committed to 3 months of consistent black seed oil use, reduced sugar, and joined a yoga class. At 6 weeks, her morning stiffness was resolving faster. At 10 weeks, she played guitar for 30 minutes without stopping. At 14 weeks, she completed a 4-mile hike. Susan did not find a cure, but she changed the proportion of her days below the threshold of limitation. That shift, from organizing life around pain to living life, is the outcome that matters most. If there is one idea to carry from today's conversation, let it be this: the inflammation trapped in your joints is not a permanent resident. It is a process that was set in motion, and every process can be interrupted. Modern science has now given us the mechanism of thymoquinone, operating at the master switch of inflammation, at the enzymes, at the immune imbalance, and at the lubrication system. No single intervention eliminates it permanently, but black seed shifts the biological balance: less destruction, more protection, less inflammatory signaling, more healing signal. It is biology, and it is available to you. It is never too late to change the environment of your joints. The biological environment of the joint, the cytokine balance, the oxidative status, is dynamic. It responds to what you eat, how you move, and how you sleep. Changes may be slower than at 30, but they are real and documented. Many people manage joint pain by arriving at an accommodation with their limitations. That quiet, dignified resilience deserves respect. But resilience is not the same as acceptance of the permanent. Your joints are living tissue. The cells within them are dividing and repairing right now. The inflammatory environment is not fixed. It can be changed. Black seed oil is one of the most potent botanical tools available for changing those inputs as part of a coherent strategy. Start with 1 teaspoon of cold-pressed black seed oil daily for 30 days. Notice what you notice. Keep a record of your morning stiffness and pain levels. The changes may be subtle at first. Pay attention to them. If you found value, share this with someone who has stopped believing their health can change. Your questions and experiences belong in the comments. Every story helps reach people who need it. Subscribe to ensure you are here for what comes next. Thank you for the privilege of your time. Take care of your joints. They will keep carrying you faithfully.